I don't know if you can see that. It could be a knife. Hey, so I just like to hop on here and share a big decision I recently made. One that even surprised me. After 4 years, I have decided to stop riding motorcycles. To give you some context, the bike I was riding was Yamaha Jog 125. It wasn't the kind of sports bike you would typically associate with the words motorcycles. It was just a simple scooter. I put almost 20,000 kilometers on that thing, mostly for work, like getting from point A to point B, going to work, coming home, rinse and repeat. So over the past 4 years and 20,000 kilometers on the road, there's a strange pattern start showing up. Like not a single year went by without an accident. Last year, I thought I was almost to make it through clean, but then December happened. I hit the front brake right on top of one of those dash lane markings in below freezing temperature during the winter in Beijing, and I lost traction on the front wheel. And next thing I knew, I was on the floor. But here's the thing. With every single crash, I actually became a better rider. Like each accident taught me something new. I learned about how to road positioning and how to anticipate blind spots. And somewhere along the way, I even figured out how to handle the insurance claim like a pro. Take my second accident as example. I was on the road going straight and the car in front of me made a U-turn all of a sudden with zero indications. So I went right into him. Full liability on his side of course, but the moment I hit the ground, my brain was already running through all the bodily injury, the property damage claim, all the insurance stuff. I had a fractured toe, but my head, protected by my expensive Shoei helmet, was completely clear and already mapping out all the next steps while I was still lying on the floor. So looking back, it was quite hilarious experience. But none of those lessons came for free, right? Like every time I went down, it left its mark, both literally and figuratively. I still have my scar here during my, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's right here, right over here. It was caused during my first accident where I was wearing a very cheap helmet that has a zipper in the neck area. I suppose it was for during the winter where you can put another clothes to zip it up, to keep your neck warm. But on the impact, right, the zipper cut straight into my skin and caused the scar. And unfortunately, I think this scar isn't going anywhere. So that is a hard lesson. Never ever wear a helmet with a hard material that could potentially touch your skin, because during the impact, it could be a knife. It could turn into a knife. So after my fourth crash at the end of last year, I had to really sit down and be honest with myself. Despite being more experienced than ever, is riding still worth it? Are the benefits still big enough to justify the risk? So let me answer that. All right, start with the benefit. The first one was time. On a motorcycle, I could cut through the traffic, get to work faster, which honestly just meant I got to sleep a bit longer in the morning. The second one is less obvious. It's a safety through speed. You might be confused, but let me explain. The bike could accelerate up to 80 kilometers per hour, but that doesn't mean you have to ride it at full speed at all time, right? Although that's what I tend to do when I was in rush, but doesn't matter. It's super dangerous, not recommending that. But what I mean was that you always had that option in your pocket. Let's say if there's a car collision near you or there's a car cutting lane near you, you have the option to getting out of that situation really fast. Instead of, right, if you're riding an e-scooter, the speed was capped at 25. You don't have the ability to get out of that situation as fast as the motorcycle can. So that is what I mean by safety through speed. And the third one was money. Riding was significantly cheaper than owning a car or calling taxi, especially during the time where the petrol price has climbing the way they have been right now. And those three things are how I convinced myself to get into the bike in the first place. But the risk are a different story. Yes, driving a car has a risk. Walking on the street have a risk. And being alive means managing risk. But the risk to injury ratio on a motorcycle is entirely different. Like when you're in a car, you have the steel cage, you have the airbags, you have the seat belts. But when you're on a motorcycle, you only have your gears and your reflexes. And do you notice that I used to own the motorcycle, right? When you heard about the term, you're in the car and on the motorcycle. That alone kind of gives you idea how dangerous it is to own something, right? It kind of gives you more exposure to the outside danger when you own a vehicle instead of in a vehicle. So that's just me thinking on the go of the words I'm using, the English. And when you're on a motorcycle, when something goes wrong, either it's your fault or someone else's fault, you're not walking away with a scratched bumper. You are walking away with freaking broken bones, or sometimes even worse. And that brings me to the final point. I think life is about being present, showing up for the big moments and the smaller ones. Whether it's closing a deal with your counterparts, or having dinner with your family, or late night out with your friends, or just being healthy enough to enjoy your own life. And the writing was just increasing the chance of me not being around for any of that. And as I'm about to enter my 30s, that is not the kind of trade-off I'm willing to make anymore. And honestly, for anyone out there who pushing their luck to just save 15 minutes on the morning commute, think twice about it too. And yes, I missed the extra sleep, right? I missed the freedom of just get on the bike and going. But my safety, my health, my peace of mind, those, especially as you get older, those simply aren't worth gambling with. There's a term in finance called risk-reward ratio. It's a concept to evaluating the potential gain of investment relative to its potential loss. And riding a motorcycle is like you are getting a tiny bit of profits every day, right? Like you are getting the convenience out of it every time you ride it. But the downside risk is massive, which could potentially be your life. And the reward is just to save 15 minutes on the morning commute. So when you frame it that way, the math simply doesn't add up because the risk-reward ratio is simply too low. So thanks for watching. If you're a rider, stay safe out there. If you're someone who are looking for getting a motorcycle for commute, I hope my story helped you make the right choice. So see you in the next one. Peace.